12 days have passed since Category 4 Hurricane Michael first made landfall and wrecked the Florida Panhandle.
We had a team travel to Panama City this past weekend to report on the storm's damaging effects. Coming up, we'll take a look at how Ole Miss alums are coping with the devastation.
Good evening and thank you for tuning in to NewsWatch Ole Miss. I'm Matthew Hindley.
And I'm Carson King.
We start today's show with a series of special reports called Mississippi Mission, Hurricane Michael. Michael slammed into Panama City and surrounding areas a week and a half ago.
For some Ole Miss alums living in Northwest Florida, Michael is the strongest storm they've ever seen. NewsWatch reporter Abby McIntosh was in Panama City to see how they're dealing with the aftermath.
Nearly 2 weeks ago, Hurricane Michael ripped through the Florida Panhandle. This region is no stranger to storms, but Michael was more destructive than any before and has left residents like Ole Miss alum Jeff Risch scrambling to pick up the pieces.
I've been on a chainsaw here for the last 9 days. You know, at some point in the day, I've spent several hours on the chainsaw for the last 8 nights. I've lost track of time. So.
Risch and his wife Patty were without power for more than a week. Fallen trees litter the yards and tarps cover damage to the roof. But Risch says recovery won't happen overnight.
We just take things a day at a time. I mean, you just literally do it a day at a time. And you deal with what you have to deal with.
Recent Ole Miss grad Peyton Locicero is a reporter at WMBB right here in Panama City. Through her reporting, she's gotten to know the area like the back of her hand, but when Michael rolled through, the area was unrecognizable.
When I came over the first day and saw it, I had to pull over because I was crying so bad. I was sobbing. I was so upset because I couldn't find where I was going. And B, I had interviewed all these people before. I knew these people. I knew the lady who had the little thrift shop. I knew the people who own Amavita, a coffee shop, who lost everything. And seeing those being completely gone and unrecognizable, it's devastating.
On top of the physical destruction, Michael has taken a mental toll on residents. Through her job, Locicero sees a way to help people get back on their feet.
Well, it's our job, it's our duty, and it's powerful knowing that I'm reaching so many people and getting them the positive information that they need to keep going.
Despite how it looks, Risch knows that it could have been much worse.
All I can say is that we were blessed and extremely fortunate. And there were many that aren't.
Abby McIntosh, NewsWatch Ole Miss.
Risch also says that he remembers the damage Hurricane Opal caused back in 1995, but he says Michael's destruction is worse. And one current Ole Miss student from Panama City went back home this weekend to see the damage for herself. Kerrigan Harrett says that when she heard Michael was headed towards her hometown, she immediately called family to see if they'd be able to evacuate.
So I called my dad and I was like, hey, are you leaving? And he's like, I can't, I'm trapped, I can't go anywhere. I'm just gonna have to wait it out, there's nothing I can do. So, you know, I'm freaking out. I'm in Oxford, 500 miles away. You know, my mom and sister are fine because they left, but you know, my dad, you know, my dogs, everywhere that I grew up, basically, for my like teenage years is in danger.
Harrett also says that being 500 miles away in Oxford made her feel hopeless, but she was able to collect about $300 worth of supplies to bring down to Panama City to help.
And people from all over the nation, including Mississippi, are aiding victims of Hurricane Michael in various ways. NewsWatch reporter Madison Scarpino has more on just how these people are helping with the devastation. Madison.
Thanks, Carson. I was in Panama City this weekend and talked with a Mississippi native who owns a water filter company and is using his business to help the victims of the hurricane. He says that clean drinking water is a vital resource in the recovery process.
Panama City Beach is still facing the devastation of Hurricane Michael. Restoring power and water are the first steps in the recovery process. Mississippi native Grant Gatlin owns Chief Water Filter Systems. He is here to repay Panama City for their help when he went through Hurricane Katrina.
Panama City sent their truck and man, people, and help, and they were tremendous help, and they were really good people. So now that this has happened, we want to return the favor.
In addition to power outages and property damages, hurricanes also contaminate drinking water. Gatlin is here to filter the water for residents and wants people to understand the risks these storms pose.
This is why we try to educate people on, something like this comes up, get out. It ain't worth your life. So this is why we're down here. We're setting up. Parish Christian, we're backing them. And so we want to help the firemen here, and then in turn they help the public.
People like Gatlin have come from all over, but owner of Venture Out Vacations, Kelly Sims, is not surprised. To her, this community is like a family.
It's amazing. We've seen people are coming out of the woodwork to help us, so it's awesome.
Wind was the major cause of damage for the Venture Out vacation houses.
We have had a large section of the marina was blown over onto our resort as well, and that took off a lot of the roofs, caused a lot of damage to the properties here. A lot of the home construction here was done with metal, like metal roofing, and that's the majority of what the mountain of metal is from the roofs, siding, things like that.
Sims was overwhelmed with the amount of support towards her community. People near and far have given their time and donations to help.
Other property owners, friends, churches have given, just people far and wide have reached out to Venture Out and brought supplies in to help.
Gatlin is not the only Mississippian aiding the victims of the storm. A local Oxford church and building materials business are making efforts to help the affected area in any way possible.
In the past few weeks following Hurricane Michael, local churches and businesses are donating their money, materials, and time to help those affected by the storm. Pastor Don Gann of First Baptist of Oxford has plans of sending a group down to help, but says it is too early to make any progress.
The need for untrained volunteers, like what we would be bringing, for the most part, hasn't opened up that much yet because the need is so great for trained volunteers that have specific skills.
Gann says the condition of the disaster areas is not yet fit for his volunteers.
No support for those volunteers right now. There's no restaurants, no power in a lot of those places, and so it has to be a part of the whole disaster response, and you don't want to take away, like for example, Red Cross and Baptist are feeding in that area, and other organizations are feeding. The food is going to the victims right now, and you don't want to bring in a whole bunch of volunteers to eat that food that's really going for victims, and those kind of things. It just takes a little time. People
from First Baptist of Oxford are constantly asking what they can do to help. Gann encourages his church to donate what is a current necessity for victims.
The needs for, the basic items like water and, baby diapers and the common things are already being met. And so we're encouraging people, if they're going to collect things, to collect building materials, sheetrock and roofing shingles, things like that.
The owner of Discount Building Materials, Cliff Sink, collected donations and just came back from a trip to Port St. Joe. Sink knew he needed help the moment he realized just how serious Hurricane Michael was.
Since my kids were little, like 4 and 5 years old, we went down there every year. And if you brought my family here and you sat around the table and you said, what are your 10 best memories you have of our family? At least 5 of them were going to be right there. I was just destroyed going there every year for 15 years, just staring at the TV. And I can't imagine what they're dealing with.
Once Sink and his workers delivered their materials, they were shocked by what they saw.
It was just destroyed. Just completely destroyed. One little town's main street, like on the square, it'd be like on the square, and the facades of the buildings were all laying in the street. The whole town. Those houses are just destroyed. You have to go in there and completely gut them.
Sink donated over $10,000 in building material and told me he is waiting to hear back from the Panhandle to determine if he is going to donate more. Carson, back to you.
Thanks, Madison. Hurricane Michael is one of the strongest storms to ever hit the continental U.S., especially in the month of October. WTVA's chief meteorologist, Matt Lobhan, says that the reason Michael intensified so quickly was due to warm water temperatures.
The reason it seemed to come out of nowhere is because it intensified over really warm water pretty quickly. And it was expected to intensify all the way to landfall, but initial estimations had it going category 1, 2, 3, and stopping there. There's a whole lot of factors that come into that, and part of which is, we're talking October here. That's late in the season. Hurricane season still extends through November, but this is not August, late August that we're talking about, because the water was just so warm and there was nothing in its way.
The National Weather Service is still assessing the damage down in Florida to determine exactly how strong Michael was. Now, LaPond also says that when a major hurricane is expected to hit, the best thing to do is evacuate.
And if you'd like to help the victims of Hurricane Michael, there are many options right here in Oxford. The Oxford-Lafayette Chamber of Commerce and the Lafayette Middle School Student Council are collecting supplies. Both drives are looking for food and water donations, as well as pet supplies, children's products, and building materials to help repair homes. If you'd like to donate money, you can donate to the American Red Cross online at www.redcross.org or over the phone at 1-800-453-7669. The minimum online donation is $10.
The university's Sara Isom Center for Women and Gender Studies is holding its 4th annual Sara Fest this month. NewsWatch reporter Thomas Goris tells us how this event seeks to celebrate women and their artistic achievements. Thomas?
Thanks, Carson. I'm here at Roanoke, where last night people gathered underneath the stars for 3 live performances, from musicians to poets, as part of the 2018 Sara Fest. It was a little cold that night, but that didn't stop people from having a great time.
A chilly fall night couldn't stop dozens of people from showing up at Roanoke Sunday to enjoy a night of music, dancing, and poetry. Thacker Mountain Radio co-hosted the event with the Sara Isom Center for Women and Gender Studies as part of the 4th ever Sara Fest. Sara Fest is an annual month-long celebration of women and their artistic accomplishments. Singer-songwriter Tasha De La Rocha kicked off the night with 1950s-style rock and was followed by poet Ashley M. Jones. Jones, a Birmingham native, writes poetry inspired by historical events, such as the civil rights campaigns of the 1960s. Hope Claiborne was the final artist of the night, and she played a mix of soul and jazz that got most of the audience up dancing as the night came to a close. Thacker Mountain Radio Director Kate Teague hopes the free event gives everyone a chance to experience quality art.
We find it very important at Thacker that we keep our shows free and open to the general public so that everyone has access to excellent arts and literature. That's really our mission.
Teague also hopes that people who've never experienced a Thacker show come out to see one firsthand.
It's a lot of fun. It's a great way to get engaged with the community. You get to see a bunch of people you've never seen before who are all there for the common purpose of just loving and celebrating arts.
Continue musical events in the Knott Auditorium tomorrow, October 23rd, and on October 26th at 7:30 p.m. Reporting live from Roanoke, I'm Thomas Goris, NewsWatch Ole Miss. Matthew?
Thanks, Thomas. Yesterday, members of the Oxford community came together to walk for a cause. NewsWatch reporter DeAndrea Turner is in the studio with more. DeAndrea?
Thanks, Matthew. That's right. The 5th annual Oxford Buddy Walk was held yesterday. Hundreds of Oxford locals came together for this fundraiser event to raise awareness for Down syndrome.
Dancing, laughing, and walking for a cause. The 5th annual Buddy Walk was held yesterday at the Old Armory Pavilion. The Buddy Walk is an event to raise awareness for Down syndrome, and the event coordinator, Roem Gratham, was excited about this year's turnout.
A beautiful day for a walk. I'm just glad to be here and glad to see it looks like we have a great turnout, so really excited about today.
Ole Miss basketball coach Kermit Davis says the Buddy Walk is an event that exemplifies the greatness about Oxford.
So obviously we have a daughter, Allie, 30, that has Down syndrome. Great to see a lot of the smaller children, and their parents here. It's just what you think about Oxford, what a great giving town, and tons of volunteers, a great day.
This year's Buddy Walk included a live DJ, bounce houses, and other kid-friendly activities, including an appearance by Tony the Land Shark, who awarded participants of the Buddy Walk their medals. Grantham says the event was made possible by volunteers.
It's like Holly Sweet Tooth's going to come and serve ice cream. We have the photo bomb booth taking photographs. We have the Ole Miss men's hockey team. This is our 5th year, and it's just been a very successful event. So we're just thrilled to be here again and to have the sunshine today.
Oxford Buddy Walk proceeds will go to a Support 21 United, a local advocacy group to help family members diagnosed with Down syndrome. Matthew, Carson, back to you.
Thanks, DeAndrea. Coming up, we have a story about the serious topic of sexual assault.
We'll share how one survivor is working to move forward after her life was turned upside down. But first, here's a look at the 5-day forecast.
1 out of every 6 women in America have been the victim of a rape or attempted rape in her lifetime.
This is one survivor's story about dealing with the aftermath of sexual assault and the fight for justice.
I hope now that people see that if the victim wants it investigated, then we'll investigate it to the fullest. That's our primary job. And so if the victim is okay with that, then Title IX will investigate it for the university. We investigate it for criminal charges, and we take the investigations very seriously, because nobody should have to go through that, especially not alone.
Literally, I remember I looked up at the stars, I was like, this is it, like, I'm gonna die. I was like, this is just how I'm dying. I was like, tonight is it. It was August 17th, 2017. Before this, I honestly just didn't really think that, like, sexual assault happened as often as people say it did. I was like, oh, whatever. So it's, like, crazy how, like, one little thing you think is nothing, but then it happens to you and you're like, wow, this happens all the time. Like, every 98 seconds, someone in America is sexually assaulted. And every 4 minutes, that assaults a child. So it's definitely, like, mentally it takes a huge, huge toll on you. Like, physically, like, you just feel, like, gross about yourself. Like, literally every time you look in the mirror, you're just like, ugh. Like, the way that I finally, like, got out of it and got help, like, was crazy, and a stranger, like, had to take me home, and, like, I was too scared to go to the cops because I was underage. I was only 20 years old, and I didn't think that they were, like, gonna listen to me. I'd been underage drinking, like, all of this stuff. I had a fake ID, like, whatever. And so I just honestly was like, no matter what I do, like, this is not gonna end well. I ran into some guy friends that I had like, I'd been in class with them, they'd been my tutors, and they were my boyfriend's, like, best friends, and me and him had been together for, like, 2 years at the time. So I mean, obviously I trusted these guys. Like, I had known them for, like, 3 to 4 years already, like, never had any issues with them, like, coming on to me, touching me. Like, they don't even hug me usually. Like, they were just, like, really cool, chill guys that I would hang out with, like, whatever. I had no DNA, like, proof that there was any specific person in the room with me because I had showered. When I got home at 4 a.m., my roommates, those girls, they were like, you need to shower, like, you're a mess, you're covered in blood, you have, like, sticks in your hair, like, you need to shower. So I showered, didn't know what I was supposed to do, and then went to the hospital and got a rape kit, and they were like, that's so dumb, like, you're not supposed to shower, like, everyone knows that, you get taught that from, like, the time you're a little girl. I was like, no one had ever said anything about any of this to me. Like, I think I had talked about sexual assault once in my life before this. So I definitely did not know that, and that's the one thing that, like, kept them from really, or that's the one thing that people have made it seem like it kept them from, like, receiving any consequences, was that there was no DNA to confirm that they had ever even been near me that night. So there were, like, 6 guys there that night, right? So even if 2 of those guys had done something, or even if 1 of those guys had done something, you all 6 were there, and no one helped. So, like, in my mind, like, your presence alone makes you guilty. Like, guilty by association, like, whatever. Like, you literally could have helped and you did nothing. Yeah, I'm, like, constantly paranoid even now. Like, every time I leave the house, I'm just like, hopefully I don't run into them. If I see them out in public, like, I literally feel like I'm going to throw up. Sometimes I do throw up. It's really hard because they are students here. And, I mean, I don't know, they were just, like, some of my best friends at the time. Like, I literally was in group chats with them. They were at all of my birthdays since freshman year, so it's just, like, rough.
No matter what the circumstances, the victim's not to blame, and they need help. That's what we're here. We're here to get them help. We're here to handle it criminally and get justice. If that's part of what they want as part of the resolution, then that's what we do. And Title IX is really good at investigating stuff too from that point of view.
Even if you didn't say no, it doesn't mean that you consented. So, like, you can be uncomfortable, you can be scared, you can be worried, and you can still come forward. People can still be nice. Like, a lot of people, yeah, they're going to be like, oh, it's no big deal. Like, oh, you're being dramatic. But, like, not everyone is like that, and you should be able to be safe and comfortable, like, being scared, you know? So I think that that's pretty much what I would say. Like, there's definitely an outlet, you just have to find it.
Natalie's case is still under investigation.
For more information about sexual assault, visit the NewsWatch Ole Miss Facebook page.
Well, it was a jam-packed weekend for Ole Miss sports as football, volleyball, and soccer hosted SEC West rivals this weekend.
That's right, Matthew. And although the football team fell to Auburn, see if the others beat their in-state rivals. Up next in Sports Watch.
Welcome to Sports Watch. I'm Annie Mapp. Ole Miss football lost their third game of the season against Auburn on Saturday. Sports Watch reporter Jason Price has the recap.
I'm here at Vaught Hemingway Stadium where today the Ole Miss Rebels fell to the Auburn Tigers 31-17. Now it was a little bit of a rocky start for the Rebels as their first field goal by Luke Logans was blocked by the Tigers, but they would gain some momentum into halftime as they were trailing the Auburn Tigers 10-6. And they would lose all of that momentum in the third quarter as Auburn scored 3 straight touchdowns, putting them up big going into the fourth quarter. And Tiamu would connect with A.J. Brown at the very end, around the 2-minute mark, to give the Rebels their first passing touchdown of the game. Now, Tiamu was sacked 5 times today, but he was still able to come up with 325 passing yards. But the Rebels struggled heavily on offense, as Scotty Field barely got to 60 yards. The Rebels will have a lot to think about and a lot to get better at as they have a bye week this week, and they look to play South Carolina next weekend here at home. Reporting from Vaught Hemingway Stadium, Jason Price, NewsWatch Ole Miss.
For the first time in 2 years, Ole Miss basketball's Square Jam is back in action. The event took off at 6 p.m. this past Friday, and I was there to capture all the shots.
An energetic Oxford community was outside City Hall Friday night to participate in the Ole Miss basketball Square Jam. The event aimed to give fans an opportunity to dribble around some basketballs while also meeting some of their favorite players on the men and women's team. Before the teams arrived, fans were able to practice their shots on the court and watch videos of previous games on the Jumbotron. However, the excitement really went up during the introductions. Fans were really pumped to get a close look at new men's head coach Kermit Davis before the season starts. But the most looked forward to event of the night included watching a three-point shooting contest from both teams and a dunk contest from the men's team.
After the Square Jam, Terrence Davis told me his favorite part of the event was seeing the excitement from the fans. Now all the fans have to wait for is the season opener on November 2nd. Ole Miss soccer brought the heat against Mississippi State yesterday. The Lady Rebels defeated the Bulldogs 2-0 in front of the stadium's largest crowd in history, while also getting the Magnolia Cup for the 5th consecutive season. In the 67th minute, Sophie Deneen unloaded a ball over the top for Cece Kaiser, who was able to net it in for the opening score. 3 minutes later, Lonnie Mulligan sent the cross all the way to Gabby Little, who was able to chip over the keeper and get it in the net to double the lead. The win secures their bid in the SEC tournament, and this Thursday, the Rebels will close out their regular season against Vanderbilt. And the Ole Miss volleyball team also broke records while securing a win against Mississippi State, taking 3-1. The team performed in front of 1,207 fans, which is their largest attendance ever. After losing the first set, the Rebels would storm back, taking the last 3. Leading the Rebels was junior Emily Stroup, who collected 17 kills. The sophomore Bailey Scott did not fall too behind. She also had a good game, getting a career best of 15 kills. Ole Miss improves to 12-11 on the year and 2-7 in league play. This week, the team will hit the road to take on Auburn Friday and Alabama on Sunday. That's all I have for you today in sports. Be sure to follow us at NewsWatch_UM to stay up to date with all things sports. Matthew, Carson, back to you guys at the desk.
Thanks, Annie. Coming up, we'll recap the ways to donate and help the victims of Hurricane Michael.
We'll be right back with more information. Stay tuned.
As a reminder, there are many ways to donate and help the victims of Hurricane Michael. And Oxford Lafayette Middle School and the Oxford Lafayette Chamber of Commerce are still collecting supplies from food and water to pet items and building materials. Donations will be accepted through this Thursday, October 25th.
And if you'd like to donate money, you can donate to the American Red Cross online at www.redcross.org or over the phone at 1-800-453-7669. The minimum online donation is $10.
Well, it's always good to see those in the Oxford community helping out those in need.
Absolutely, Matthew.
That's all we have for tonight. Thank you for tuning in to NewsWatch Ole Miss. I'm Matthew Henry.
And I'm Carson King. Be sure to join us here again tomorrow night at 5 and on NewsWatchOleMiss.com. Thank you and good night.